for the Regional Planning Committee, but basically seeing they approved the submission is updated to include amendments agreed with the Regional Planning Committee for lodging with the Local Government Commission. I think we could deal with it actually in the previous item as described this morning. So could I perhaps hand over to the Chief Executive to take us through this?
Sorry, what are we dealing with?
Item 10 on page 29, but we'll deal with the amalgamation discussion and paper here.
Which is the appendix to the next one.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Yes, so they're both, so I can understand
relevant to both,
confusion,
yeah.
but that particular submission has been discussed 3 times by the Environment and Services Committee, the Regional Planning Committee, and as you've heard earlier, latterly by the Māori Committee yesterday. So there's recommendations come through from both the Environment and Services and Regional Planning Committee. The paper, the updated version of the submission, is attached to the Regional Planning Committee paper.
Should we actually perhaps deal with recommendation 2 and 3 first?
Yes.
Get that out of the way.
Yes, I was going to suggest we do that.
Okay. So can you...
And actually recommendation 5 as well, if you wish. 1, 2, 3 and 5, if you wish, so that... on page 29 of the agenda, item 10.
Well, just so everyone's clear, before we ask for a seconder, Councillor Hewitt, have you got any questions or around those recommendations from the Environment and Services Committee?
No, I don't think so.
You happy? Yeah. Any other questions?
Sorry, someone
moving 1, 2, 3 and 5.
Okay.
And that's moved by Councillor Scott, seconded by Councillor Pipe. You wish to speak? I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Right, now let's get into this.
So submission. Recommendation 4. If we can refer, please, to the attachment 1 for item 11, beginning on page 33 and concluding on page 41 of the agenda. This submission incorporates the changes that have been sought, or certainly there was some a completion that needed to be undertaken following the Environment and Services Committee, because it was essentially key points of the submission. That was then presented to the Regional Planning Committee, and there were some further changes sought, which sought there around in the area of Māori representation, and those are included on page 38. I have one further amendment which I would like to make in that section, and it's following on from a comment from Mike Parker at the Māori Committee yesterday. So on page 38 of the agenda, 3rd line down, Regional Planning Committee of the Hawke's Bay Regional Council, which maintains equal numbers of, I would like to cross out iwi and put tangata whenua, just to be quite clear on that. His point there was around some confusion potentially with iwi authorities. So that would be the change I'd like to see there. But basically the draft submission, as it's presented to you now, represents the feedback that I've received from those 3 committees, and I'm happy to take questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Bevan.
Thanks, Chair. Just a couple of typographical grammar errors on page 35, the last paragraph. It reads, "Of necessity, regional councils generally takes a long-term strategic look," and then the second last line, it says making functions should also be completed by the Commission. I would have thought recommended was a better word to use.
Oh, sorry, that should be contemplated, actually. That's a spell check.
Okay.
Obviously, mistake there. Thank you.
And one last thing, we've always taken the view that we would maintain a neutral stance in relation to this, but comment on those things that affect our sphere of activities. And I don't believe the very last sentence of the submission is appropriate. We are. I know it doesn't say we're opposed to the proposal, but it might as well, because saying we're unable to support is actually the same as saying we are opposed, and I just don't think we need to say that. That removes, in my mind, our neutrality. We've made the points earlier on that we want to make, and I'm agreed to those, but I don't think we should be saying the last thing, we're opposed.
Have you got any other wording?
I just leave that sentence completely out. It's not necessary.
Mr. Chair, I have a comment on that. I think that sentence is necessary, but I think because we do oppose the proposition as it presents itself, but I thought also we had an agreement that we were neutral on the substantive issue, and I don't think that says that here. And I would like to say that before that sentence.
Sorry, you'd like to, before that sentence, say
something like this, that the Hawke's Bay Regional Council represents all the areas of Hawke's Bay being considered for local government reorganisation and remains neutral on the substantive issue in the debate, which is whether we do or don't. However, and given the concerns, go straight into that sentence, we don't agree with the way it is, because we don't. No one does. No one does agree.
including Hastings.
Including Hastings.
Had breakfast with Lawrence this morning.
Chairman, I
Councillor
think
Scott.
this is going to come down to I want this and I want that, and I don't want this or I don't want that. I'm certainly not going to make a statement. We're going through this considering what of the local government does the current position support those functions and secure them for the future. Can they be properly integrated is another matter. Perhaps it would be, may I suggest that if we're going to start playing with wording, that I'm happy to move the submission as it is, and then they can, anyone else who's opposing it can move an amendment with the suggested wording, and we can actually take a vote on it.
Zoe and other
Well,
comments.
Mr. Chairman, before it gets to that, I actually believe that there's a conversation that we should have today which has been lacking in the deliberations so far. And that is very simply the issue as to whether the regional council members and their associates, such as the Murray Committee, may well take a view that in the reorganisation that it is in the best interest of Hawke's Bay for the regional council to remain apart from whatever reorganisation may or may not take place and continue to exist as a separate entity focused on its responsibilities in natural resource management, its referee function under the RMA in regard to propositions by territorial councils, and as the guardians of the region's investment funds. I don't believe we've had that conversation. I believe we should. The issue as to what happens in terms of potential amalgamation of territorial authorities, that's beyond us, no doubt. Most of us around the table will have a view, but that view I don't believe should come into discussions here. Now, I really think that the Council should seriously consider that issue, and in doing so should consider why regional councils were set up in 1989, what their purpose is, acknowledge the fact that we are different, we are very different. That's why regional councils were established. And that it is, certainly in my view, very much better for Hawke's Bay for the regional council to remain and continue independently doing its job alongside its territorial neighbours or neighbour whatever the ultimate shape of that might be. So I'm suggesting that there's an overt recommendation in the submission that the Local Government Commission acknowledges the ongoing existence and function and intrinsic worth and essential nature of an independent regional council.
That'll stir things up. Mr. Moy, you want to
Yes, in agreeing with Councillor Dick, I forgot to say that actually was the Māori view, and then they went immediately into the further debate. So that was their view, that the regional council stay as a standalone.
So how many of the Tai Whenua present actually made that comment?
Well, this was in a pre and post.
They made it in the meeting I was sitting in too.
Yeah, but I mean to say it wasn't clear enough, because one of the problems of so-called having the 9 to 10 meeting is sometimes it doesn't get carried on to the next part. Yeah, but that was certainly their view, that in saying that the concerns about one authority to look after the ecological things to the same extent as a standalone regional council would do. So that was their view.
Thank you, Councillor
I'd just like to add, Mr. Chairman, that I'm sorry that Councillor Barker is not here, because he has long political experience. I've had a bit of a chat with him, and I believe that he is open to that notion, but it's not for me to speak for him.
Thank you, Councillor Belford.
I want to speak to the process, but first I want to just note, while we're collecting Maori views on this subject, just would indicate that Nikki is submitting in favor of the proposal as proposed by the Local Government Commission, so we can collect all of that in one basket if we would. I would like to move that we suspend the rules, the standing orders, so that we could have the kind of discussion that Councillor Dick is proposing, and have it be relatively free form, as opposed to one speaker, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And in proposing, so I'm making that as a formal motion.
Hang on. Can I help you with that? I don't believe we need to do that. I'm happy to let it flow as it stands. I've been taking comments so far. Happy to take some more comments and some questions if desired. I think we can do it within the realms of what we're doing here. So I don't believe we need to be that formal.
All right. Can I continue then? While that might be a interesting debate to have in the public domain, I think some of it is effectively moot. The Local Government Commission has gone through a process. It's gone to a point in that process where it is eliminated a whole variety of alternatives to what it wound up proposing, one of those being preserving an independent regional council. Now, we may not, or some of us may not agree with the logic of that, or feel that it's been adequately defended by them to date, or what have you, but I don't think their process is really going to reverse itself by virtue of one party who they regard, I'm sure, as an interested party in the outcome, happens to be taking a view that seems very self-protective of its turf, and not much beyond that. This submission raises two substantive points that, one of which I have no idea what feedback this is responding to, but I was very surprised to read that we are supporting establishment of an elected natural resources board. Where did that come from? What discussion has that had? What does that mean? What are the powers of it? All the questions that are asked in this document as to non-specificity about the Local Government Commission's current report would abound in this. what is that to do? What's its jurisdiction? Who elects it? Where did that come from? And what does that have to do with expressing a concern we have about the proposal that they have put on the table in front of us?
Let's get an answer to that one.